Hey, this is Tony from the Cold Case Project, where we focus on unsolved cases across the United States. Our mission is to bring attention to these unresolved mysteries that need your help. All the information we cover in these cases is readily available on the internet, but we rewrite and repurpose it for the purpose of these videos. Our goal is to spread the word about the thousands of unsolved cold cases still out there. Thank you for watching. If you want to help shed light on these cases, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Your support can make a difference.
Stephanie Huntsberger and her husband, Edward Huntsberger, were both addicted to heroin, and by the time they met and married in 1977, neither of them maintained regular employment. Stephanie, in her struggle to support their habit and survive, occasionally worked as a prostitute on the streets of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Their lives were chaotic, consumed by their addictions, and in September 1977, they attempted to make a new start by moving into the King of Prussia, Pennsylvania home of Stephanie's father, Dr. J. Charles Smith, who was the principal of Upper Marion High School. The last verified sighting of Stephanie and Edward occurred on February 25, 1978, when they visited Edward's parents in North Wales, Pennsylvania. Their visit seemed ordinary until they left, with Edward telling his mother, "We'll be back a little later," a promise that would never be fulfilled. After several weeks passed without any word from the couple, Edward's concerned parents reached out to Dr. Smith, inquiring about their whereabouts. Smith responded by claiming that Stephanie and Edward owed a significant amount of money to drug dealers and had fled to California to escape the debt. However, this explanation raised suspicions when it was discovered that the couple had left behind all of their personal belongings, including their toothbrushes and an uncashed income tax return. In the following weeks, further unsettling details emerged. Dr. Smith admitted to cashing at least 2 of Stephanie's welfare checks after her disappearance and keeping the money for himself, a revelation that painted him in a suspicious light. Edward, who was on probation at the time for a 1975 armed robbery conviction, was legally obligated to seek treatment for his drug addiction and maintain regular contact with his probation officer. The couple had a scheduled appointment with a methadone clinic in February 1978, but they never showed up. When a staff member from the clinic contacted Smith in March 1978 to inquire about Stephanie's whereabouts, Smith claimed that he had acquired some Placidil and really good pot and was attempting to detox his daughter on his own. As the couple missed more appointments, the clinic staff assumed they had relapsed into their heroin addiction. Edward's failure to check in with his probation officer led to a warrant being issued for his arrest in September 1978. However, before that, on August 19, 1978, Dr. Smith was arrested in the parking lot of a local mall. He was found carrying multiple loaded guns and a syringe filled with sedative drugs. A search of his home revealed 3 pounds of marijuana, a large stash of prescription pills, and several security guard uniforms that would later be linked to a series of unsolved armed robberies that had occurred over the past year. Smith claimed that the drugs found in his home belonged to Stephanie and Edward, distancing himself from any criminal activity. Despite his defense, he was convicted on June 25, 1979, of drug possession with intent to deliver and receiving stolen goods and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Throughout his legal troubles, Smith maintained his innocence regarding the couple's disappearance. He told his attorneys that he had seen Stephanie and Edward together on August 19, 1978, the same day he was arrested, and claimed to have seen Stephanie again in the spring of 1979. Unverified sightings of Stephanie, but not Edward, continued into the next year. A neighbor of Smith's reported seeing Stephanie sometime in 1979. A confidential police informant claimed to have met Stephanie in mid-August 1979, asserting that both she and Edward were alive and well in Philadelphia. Smith's younger daughter also stated that she saw Stephanie several months after Smith's June 1979 conviction. However, none of these sightings could be conclusively verified. In a disturbing turn, Dr. Smith was charged in 1985 with the murders of Susan Reinert and her 2 young children, Michael and Karen. The three of them vanished on June 22, 1979, and 3 days later, Susan's naked body was discovered in the trunk of her car, parked at the Host Inn in Swadara Township, Pennsylvania. A man had called in a report of a sick woman in the trunk, leading to the discovery. Susan had been beaten, bound with a chain, and ultimately killed with an injection of morphine 24 to 36 hours after the initial beating. There was no sign of her children, Michael and Karen, and despite extensive searches, they were never found. Susan had been romantically involved with William Sidney Bill Bradfield, who was the chair of the English department at Upper Merion High School, where Susan and Smith also worked. In 1981, Bradfield was convicted of misappropriating $25,000 of Susan's money, which she had entrusted to him for investment. After his release from prison, Bradfield was charged in 1983 with conspiring to murder Susan and her children. Prosecutors argued that Bradfield's motive was financial gain, specifically Susan's life insurance policy, and that he orchestrated the murders to prevent Susan from discovering that he had stolen her money. Bradfield was convicted of the murders and sentenced to 3 life sentences in prison. However, investigators believed that Bradfield had not acted alone and suspected that Dr. Smith had been the one to physically commit the murders while Bradfield masterminded the plan. During Smith's trial, his lawyer argued that Bradfield had deliberately framed him for the murders, but the jury was unconvinced, and Smith was convicted on 3 counts of murder and sentenced to death. Smith's legal battles did not end there. In 1989, his conviction was overturned when evidence emerged that had been improperly concealed by the prosecution during his trial, casting significant doubt on his guilt. A retrial was ordered but never took place, and Smith was released from prison in 1992. He later filed a civil rights lawsuit against the prosecutors involved in his case, but the suit was ultimately dismissed in 1998. Smith lived the remainder of his life a free man and died of heart disease in 2009. Bradfield, who never confessed to any involvement in the murders, died in prison in 1998. Throughout the decades, the mystery of Stephanie and Edward Huntsberger's disappearance remained unsolved. There were no reported sightings of either of them after 1979, and their fates remain unknown. Edward was declared legally dead in 1985, but the question of what truly happened to the couple lingers. While Dr. Smith has been identified as a suspect in their disappearances, particularly given his troubled relationship with Stephanie, no concrete evidence has surfaced to confirm his involvement. The case drew significant public attention, culminating in the publication of Joseph Wambaugh's book, Echoes in the Darkness, in 1987, which delved into the chilling murders of the Reinert family and the complex web of relationships and secrets that surrounded them. The book further cemented the case in the public's mind, but despite the widespread exposure, Stephanie and Edward's disappearance remains an enduring mystery, a haunting chapter in a series of tragic events that left more questions than answers. The disappearance of Ray Grier is one of the most perplexing and haunting mysteries in recent memory. A man of integrity, intelligence, and dedication, Ray's sudden vanishing on April 15, 2005, has left investigators, family, and friends grappling with unanswered questions for nearly 2 decades. His case is a labyrinth of theories, dead ends, and eerie coincidences, each more baffling than the last. To understand the depth of this mystery, we must delve into Ray's life, the events leading up to his disappearance, and the myriad of theories that have emerged in the years since. Ray Grier was born on October 9, 1945, in Cleveland, Ohio, into a close-knit family. Growing up in the Collinwood neighborhood, Ray was known for his quiet, studious nature and his fierce independence. He attended Gilmore Academy, a Roman Catholic school, where his determination and focus became evident. Ray's love for sports, particularly the Cleveland Indians and Browns, was matched only by his passion for long drives, which he found therapeutic. These drives, often taken to clear his mind, would later become a focal point in the mystery of his disappearance. Ray's career in law began somewhat serendipitously. While attending the University of Dayton, he interned at a prosecutor's office, sparking a lifelong interest in law. He went on to earn his law degree from Case Western Reserve University and married his first wife, Barbara Gray, in 1969. The couple adopted a daughter, Laura, in 1978. In 1980, the family moved to Pennsylvania after Barbara accepted a job at Penn State University. Ray initially took a step back from his career to focus on family, but he soon returned to the legal field, becoming an assistant district attorney for Centre County. By 1985, Ray had been elected district attorney, a position he held for nearly 20 years. Ray's career was marked by integrity and a commitment to justice. He prosecuted high-profile cases, including the 1996 shooting at Penn State by Jillian Robbins, which resulted in 1 death and 1 injury. Ray was also involved in the initial investigation into allegations of sexual abuse against Jerry Sandusky, the former Penn State football coach. Despite the gravity of the accusations, Ray chose not to prosecute Sandusky at the time, a decision that would later be scrutinized in light of Sandusky's eventual conviction in 2012. Ray's colleagues and friends have consistently defended his decision, emphasizing his meticulous nature and his commitment to ensuring a strong case before proceeding. Ray's personal life, however, was not without its challenges. His marriage to Barbara ended in divorce in 1991, and his second marriage to Emma in 1996 also ended in separation by 2001. Despite these setbacks, Ray found love again with Patty Fornicala, with whom he shared a home in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. Patty described their relationship as deeply fulfilling, with Ray finally finding his soulmate. By 2004, Ray was preparing for retirement, planning to leave his position as district attorney in January 2006. He looked forward to traveling, visiting his daughter in Washington State, and enjoying a quieter life. But Ray's plans were tragically cut short. On the morning of April 15, 2005, Ray told Patty he was going to take the day off work and go for a drive. He left their home in his red Mini Cooper, heading east on Route 192 toward Lewisburg, a route he had driven many times before. Around 11:30 a.m., Ray called Patty from his cell phone, informing her of his plans and mentioning that he wouldn't be able to take care of their dog. This was the last confirmed contact anyone had with Ray. When Ray failed to return home that evening, Patty grew increasingly worried. She called his cell phone repeatedly, but each call went straight to voicemail. By 11 p.m., Patty contacted the Bellefonte Police Department to report Ray missing. The search for Ray began immediately, with law enforcement initially suspecting he might have been in a car accident or experienced vehicle trouble. However, as hours turned into days, the investigation took a more ominous turn. On April 16th, Ray's Mini Cooper was discovered in a parking lot in Lewisburg, approximately 55 miles from his home. The car was parked normally, with no signs of a struggle or foul play. Inside, investigators found Ray's county-issued cell phone, which had been powered off. The car also had a faint smell of cigarette smoke, despite Ray being a non-smoker. Cigarette butts were found outside the passenger side of the car, and DNA from the butts was later extracted. However, the DNA did not match anyone in the criminal database, leaving investigators with yet another dead end. The discovery of Ray's car near the Susquehanna River led to extensive searches of the area, including the river itself. Cadaver dogs were brought in, and divers scoured the riverbed, but no trace of Ray was found. The river's strong currents and cold temperatures made the search challenging, and investigators acknowledged that if Ray had entered the water, his body might never be recovered. As the days turned into weeks, the investigation expanded. Ray's laptop was discovered in the Susquehanna River on July 30th, 2005, but the hard drive was missing. Months later, on October 1st, the hard drive was found nearby, waterlogged and severely damaged. Despite efforts by the FBI and a renowned data recovery company, no data could be retrieved from the drive. The destruction of the laptop and hard drive raised questions about whether Ray had been trying to conceal information or if someone else had tampered with the devices. Theories about Ray's disappearance began to emerge, each more complex than the last. One theory suggested that Ray had committed suicide, mirroring the fate of his older brother, Roy, who had disappeared in 1996 and was later found dead in a river. Roy's death had been ruled a suicide, but Ray had never accepted that conclusion, believing his brother would not have orphaned his two sons. However, Ray's family and friends found it difficult to believe he would take his own life, especially given his plans for retirement and his close relationships with Patty and Laura. Another theory posited that Ray had chosen to disappear voluntarily. As a seasoned prosecutor, Ray would have had the knowledge and resources to go off the grid. The destruction of his laptop and hard drive could have been an attempt to erase any digital trail. However, this theory is complicated by the fact that Ray left behind his wallet, keys, and other personal belongings. Additionally, his deep love for his daughter and Patty makes it hard to believe he would abandon them without a word. The most compelling theory, and the one that has garnered the most attention, is that Ray was the victim of foul play. As a district attorney, Ray had prosecuted numerous cases, some involving dangerous individuals. It's possible that someone he had sent to prison sought revenge. Alternatively, Ray may have uncovered corruption or illegal activities within his own office or the community, putting him in harm's way. The unidentified woman seen with Ray in Lewisburg on the day of his disappearance adds another layer of intrigue. Was she an accomplice, a lure, or simply a red herring? Without her identity, this lead remains unresolved. The Sandusky case has also been a point of speculation. Some believe Ray's decision not to prosecute Sandusky in the late 1990s may have been influenced by external pressures, and that his disappearance could be linked to this case. However, there is no concrete evidence to support this theory, and those who knew Ray insist he would not have been swayed by political or social pressures. Over the years, the investigation into Ray's disappearance has seen its share of twists and turns. In 2010, a task force was formed to re-examine the case, but no new leads were uncovered. In 2011, Ray was declared legally dead, and his estate was awarded to his daughter, Laura. That same year, a man resembling Ray was arrested in Utah, but fingerprints confirmed it was not him. In 2012, Jerry Sandusky was convicted of multiple counts of sexual abuse, reigniting questions about Ray's earlier decision not to prosecute. However, no direct link between Sandusky and Ray's disappearance has ever been established. In 2015, a self-proclaimed psychic suggested that Ray's remains might be near a boathouse on his property. Cadaver dogs alerted to a specific spot, but no evidence was found. The search expanded to the nearby lake, which had been drained for maintenance, but again, nothing was discovered. The psychic's involvement, while intriguing, did not yield any breakthroughs. The case took another strange turn in 2018 when investigators discovered that Ray's license plate had been scanned in a nearby county just weeks after his disappearance. However, the records from that time had been lost, and the retired detective who had worked on the case had no memory of being notified. This revelation was deeply frustrating for Ray's family, who felt that critical leads had been overlooked. As of 2025, Ray Gricker's disappearance remains unsolved. His family, particularly his daughter Laura and his longtime partner Patty, continue to seek answers. Patty, who still lives in the home she shared with Ray, holds out hope that he will one day return. Laura, who has endured the pain of losing both her father and her uncle under mysterious circumstances, has expressed her frustration at the lack of closure. The case has taken a toll on everyone involved, and the passage of time has only deepened the mystery. The disappearance of Ray Gricker is a story of a man who dedicated his life to justice, only to vanish without a trace. The theories surrounding his disappearance, voluntary disappearance, or foul play, each present their own set of challenges and contradictions. Without new evidence or a breakthrough, the truth may remain elusive. For those who knew him, Ray was a man of principle, intelligence, and compassion. His disappearance has left a void that cannot be filled, and his story continues to captivate and confound. The mysterious death of Jack Davis Jr. is a case that has haunted his family, friends, and the Indiana University of Pennsylvania community for over 3 decades. On the surface, it appeared to be a tragic accident, a young college student, intoxicated and disoriented, falling to his death in a secluded stairwell. But as the years passed, inconsistencies in the official narrative began to surface, raising questions about what really happened to Jack on that fateful night in October 1987. Today, we'll dive deep into the details of Jack's case, exploring the events leading up to his death, the flawed investigation that followed, and the lingering questions that suggest his death may not have been an accident after all. Jack Davis Jr. was a 20-year-old sophomore at IUP, majoring in business and living off campus with roommates. He was also a member of the Sigma Tau Gamma fraternity, a group that, according to some students, had a reputation for being rowdy and involved in questionable activities. On the evening of Friday, October 16, 1987, Jack attended a party at a sorority house with some of his fraternity brothers. After the party, the group made the rounds at several local bars, including Patty's, a popular spot near campus. Witnesses later recalled that Jack was visibly intoxicated, and one student even walked him back to IUP's Elkin Hall to ensure he got home safely. But Jack never made it back to his apartment. His roommates reported him missing on Monday night, October 19th, but a search of the campus wasn't conducted until Wednesday evening, October 21st. That night, authorities made a grim discovery. Jack's body was found at the bottom of a 20-step exterior stairwell leading to the basement entrance of Wayne Hall. The stairwell was seldom used, and Jack's body had apparently been lying there for nearly 5 days without being noticed. The local coroner, Thomas Streams, ruled Jack's death an accident. According to the official report, Jack had wandered into the stairwell in an intoxicated state, possibly to urinate. At the bottom of the stairs, he collapsed, hit his head, lost consciousness, vomited, and ultimately choked on his own vomit, leading to his death. The coroner estimated that Jack had died around 2 a.m. on Saturday, October 17th, just hours after he was last seen. The autopsy report noted traces of cocaine and marijuana in Jack's system, but found no signs of a struggle, defensive wounds, or drag marks. The only notable injury was a small bruise above one eyebrow. The coroner concluded that Jack's death was a tragic but straightforward accident, a result of his intoxication and poor decision-making. Jack's family, however, was skeptical. They couldn't believe that their son, a responsible and level-headed young man, would have died in such a manner. For over 2 years, they tried to accept the official ruling, but their doubts continued to grow. Then, in 1990, a local reporter named Marlene Brennan began to publicly question the coroner's findings, prompting the family to seek a second opinion from one of the country's top forensic pathologists, Dr. Cyril Wecht. Dr. Wecht's examination of the case revealed glaring discrepancies in the original autopsy report. First and foremost, despite witness accounts that Jack had been drinking heavily on the night he disappeared, no alcohol was found in his blood. Small amounts were detected in his stomach and urine. But Dr. Wecht explained that for Jack to have no alcohol in his blood at the time of his death, he would have had to have been alive for about 30 hours after his last drink. This would place his death around Sunday afternoon, not Saturday morning as the coroner had claimed. Dr. Wecht also noted that Jack had a heavy beard stubble when his body was found, despite being clean-shaven on Friday night. This suggested that Jack had been alive for at least a day or two after his disappearance. Additionally, Jack was suffering from pneumonia, which indicated he had been alive and ill for some period of time before his death. Perhaps the most damning evidence came from the autopsy slides of Jack's lungs. The original pathologist had concluded that Jack died from choking on regurgitated food, but Dr. Wecht found no food particles deep in Jack's airways, which would have been present if he had truly choked. Furthermore, the original autopsy had not examined Jack's skull, a critical oversight that Dr. Wecht addressed during a second autopsy after Jack's body was exhumed in the fall of 1990. When Dr. Wecht opened Jack's skull, he discovered 3 fractures, including a 3-inch-long vertical fracture at the back of the skull. These injuries, along with significant bleeding over the brain, were the true cause of Jack's death. Dr. Wecht believed the fractures were more consistent with a fall than a blow to the head, but he couldn't rule out foul play. To better understand how Jack might have sustained these injuries, Dr. Wecht visited the stairwell where Jack's body was found. He concluded that Jack could not have accidentally fallen down the stairs, as there were no abrasions, bruises, or contusions on his body that would indicate a tumble. Additionally, the fractures were not consistent with a fall from a great height, which would have caused more severe eggshell-type fractures. Dr. Wecht also noted that Jack's clothes were dry when his body was found, despite heavy rain falling on the campus in the days before his discovery. This raised further questions about the official timeline, as it seemed unlikely that Jack's body could have lain in the stairwell for 5 days without his clothes becoming soaked. As the investigation deepened, attention turned to Jack's fraternity, Sigma Tau Gamma. According to some students, the fraternity was not officially recognized by the university and had a reputation for being involved in unsavory activities. Jack's big brother in the fraternity was allegedly a major cocaine dealer on campus, and Jack was found wearing his fraternity jacket when his body was discovered. Marlene Brennan, the reporter who investigated Jack's case, theorized that Jack may have been caught up in a feud between rival fraternities. She learned that there had been at least 5 fights on campus the night Jack disappeared, and it was possible that Jack had been injured in one of these altercations. Brennan speculated that someone or a group of people had kept Jack hidden, hoping he would recover, but when he succumbed to his injuries, they moved his body to the stairwell to make his death appear accidental. Despite Dr. Wecht's findings and Brennan's investigation, the case remained unresolved. In October 1990, authorities reopened the investigation, but it was quickly suspended by District Attorney William Martin, who claimed that Jack's family had jeopardized the case by speaking to the media. Martin reclassified Jack's death as suspicious, but ultimately closed the case again, citing a lack of new evidence. Over the years, Jack's family continued to push for answers. In 2005, a retired Indiana Borough police officer contacted the family, claiming that Jack had asked him for protection just 2 weeks before his death. The officer did not explain why he had never acted on this information, and his revelation did not lead to any breakthroughs in the case. Jack's death remains a mystery. Was it truly an accident, as the coroner initially ruled? Or was Jack the victim of foul play, caught up in a dangerous feud or criminal activity? The inconsistencies in the autopsy reports, the strange circumstances surrounding his death, and the involvement of his fraternity all point to a more sinister explanation. Dr. Wecht and others believe that someone knows what really happened to Jack. Perhaps it was a fraternity brother, a rival student, or someone else with ties to the campus. Whatever the truth may be, Jack's family deserves answers. His mother, Elaine Davis Lynch, passed away in December 2021 without ever knowing what happened to her son. His stepbrother, John Lynch, also passed away, leaving the case in the hands of those who still remember Jack and the unanswered questions surrounding his death. If you have any information about Jack's death, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, please come forward. Jack's family and friends have waited over 35 years for closure, and they deserve to know what really happened to him. Cindy Song was born on February 25, 1980, in Seoul, South Korea. Growing up in South Korea, Cindy had a relatively normal childhood filled with dreams and aspirations. Her parents, envisioning a brighter future for her, decided when she turned 15 in 1995 to send her to Virginia, United States, to live with her aunt and uncle. They believed that the U.S. would offer better educational opportunities, setting Cindy on a path filled with promise. In Virginia, Cindy adapted to her new environment, navigating the complexities of adolescence in a foreign land. Her determination and resilience shone through, leading her to graduate high school with commendable grades. She was then accepted into Pennsylvania State University, where she majored in integrative arts, a unique program combining engineering, communications, and science. This student-designed curriculum allowed Cindy to tailor her studies to her passions, and she thrived in it. Cindy was a vibrant soul with an immense love for the arts. She maintained a blog where she poured out her appreciation for film, music, photography, and dance. Her passion wasn't confined to the digital space. She lived and breathed creativity. Balancing two part-time jobs alongside demanding coursework, Cindy exemplified independence and hard work. Her ultimate goal was to graduate in the spring of 2002, and she was on track to achieve it. Despite her rigorous schedule, Cindy maintained an active social life. Friends described her as attractive, kind, and someone whose personality naturally meshed with others. She embodied the quintessential university experience, balancing academics, work, and a thriving social circle. On Halloween night, October 31st, 2001, Cindy decided to unwind and celebrate. She, along with her friends Stacy Peak and Lisa Kim, attended a costume party at the Players nightclub on College Avenue. Cindy dressed as a bunny, wearing a pink sleeveless shirt with a rabbit design, a white tennis skirt, brown leather knee-high boots, bunny ears, and a cotton tail. To combat the chilly October night, she wore a red knee-length hooded parka and carried a backpack and purse. The trio had an enjoyable evening, dancing and drinking until 2 a.m. After leaving the club, they weren't ready to call it a night and headed to a friend's apartment, playing video games until around 4 a.m. Eventually, Cindy's friend dropped her off outside the Park Apartments on Clinton Avenue, where she lived with her roommate, Catherine. It was shortly after 4 a.m. on November 1st, 2001, the last confirmed sighting of Cindy. Catherine returned home later that day from a family visit to Philadelphia. Expecting Cindy to be home, as they had plans to catch up before going out with friends, Catherine was surprised to find the apartment empty and locked from the outside. Assuming Cindy had gone out, she thought little of it. However, as days passed and Cindy missed her shift at the Korean Garden restaurant, concern grew. Catherine contacted the police, reporting Cindy missing. Initial police response was sluggish. It wasn't until 4 days later that Detective Brian Sprinkle took over the case. The investigation into Cindy's apartment revealed her backpack and cell phone, commonly stored there due to the phone's size, along with her false eyelashes from her Halloween costume left on the counter. Her crossbody purse, containing her credit cards and ID, was missing. There were no signs of forced entry or struggle. Details in the apartment suggested Cindy intended to return. Concert tickets for an upcoming Britney Spears show and a receipt for a new computer indicated future plans. Her phone and email records showed no unusual activity, and her credit cards hadn't been used. Investigators explored several theories. One possibility was abduction during a late-night trip to the nearby 24-hour Giant store, a place Cindy often visited. Unfortunately, by the time police sought the store's surveillance footage, it had been recorded over. An eyewitness later claimed to have seen a woman matching Cindy's description being forcibly taken into a car in Philadelphia's Chinatown district, nearly 200 miles away. Despite composing a composite sketch of the alleged abductor, inconsistencies in the witness's story eventually discredited the account. Cindy's mother, Ban Soon, and brother, Ki-hoon, arrived from South Korea to assist in the investigation. Frustrated with the perceived lack of progress, they, along with friends and Penn State alumni, formed the Coalition for the Search of Cindy's Song. They criticized law enforcement's efforts, accusing them of negligence and racial bias. Despite public pressure, including a petition with over 15,000 signatures, the investigation stagnated. Years later, a surprising lead emerged. Hall Weekly, a convicted burglar, claimed that Hugo Selensky, a man serving time for bank robbery, had confessed to kidnapping Cindy. According to Weekly, Hugo and associate Michael Kurkowski abducted Cindy, mistaking her for a sex worker. They allegedly held her captive, assaulted her, and eventually killed her, burying her on Selensky's property. A search of Selensky's land uncovered multiple bodies, but none were Cindy's. Despite extensive excavations and Hugo's partial confessions, Cindy's fate remains unknown. Today, nearly 24 years later, Cindy Song's disappearance remains an open case. Her DNA is stored in the National Missing Persons Database, awaiting a match that could one day bring closure to her family and friends. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Cindy Song on November 1st, 2001, please contact the Ferguson Township Police Department at 814-237-1172.